Good for her.
She's 100%.
Good for you.
Retired.
Social, yeah,
Does she travel a
grandkids.
lot?
Yeah, we have a son in San Francisco, so we're out there.
We're
seeing
live
him.
Yeah.
and unmuted now. So
Unmuted, okay.
I'll just like that.
Okay, so we are on. Waiting on,
Should we call Greg and make sure, I mean, you've been communicating.
yeah. I'm guessing it's a travel and parking issue.
Yeah. He probably parked in the garage just in case he.
And road construction.
Yeah.
Hello? 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 Hey. Yep.
Okay, and that you've already gotten them signed up. You've already got, did you ask them if they wanted to go, or did you just sign them
I just signed him up. Oh, yeah, I did ask him, yeah.
up? Okay.
Ray never
I didn't
answered,
understand
but
what you
Ray-
said.
So I just signed him up.
Okay. I'll just remind them of those days. Because we probably don't have to meet again until January. Something.
Yeah, we were planning something a couple days ago, and somebody said December 17th. No,
Yep.
can't do anything now.
Little known and seldom used fact. How many miles of shelving are in the Library of Congress?
The obvious one would be lots. But a specific one would be
A little over 300 miles.
miles.
180 million. I am now a 2-year member of Access to 180 million values,
Wow,
whatever that's worth.
okay.
As they say, put that in your pipe.
You smoke it. That's right.
Might be a Jeopardy question one day,
Could be.
or pub trivia.
Pub trivia.
Would be more like it. There it
Look at
is.
it, Chairman's note.
We waited on you.
Thank you. I got stuck on a call longer than I hoped.
Oh,
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
so moved. No. No.
Welcome, Greg.
Thank you.
We were debating whose turn it was to be late this time, so
You were late the last
I
time.
know.
No,
We were doing.
that's, we were, I was.
Appreciate it. That should be a complete copy of everything. All right, it being a little after the hour, the Hamilton County Election Board will be called to order for the meeting September 18th, 2025, beginning at 1 p.m. in the Commissioner Courtroom of the Hamilton County Governmental and Judicial Center. See all members are present, as well as the election clerk. First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes of August 13th, 2025.
Did I miss seeing minutes?
They were in that document that I sent. See. Okay,
How far down do I have to look?
okay, look on the second page.
Well, That's
Not
the
that
vote
one.
center
The
plan.
voting, no, the voting,
They're clipped at the top.
see where, it's in that, in your left hand, that, it's in there.
That's the email.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I read through all the public comments and everything. including Ray's column in his own newspaper.
Well,
I had several people call to object that I was in favor and several call to object that I was against.
So that gave you a
so
chance
they couldn't
to,
tell.
I actually don't see the minutes.
okay, I'll get it for you. Should have put tax on it.
I tried to write it neutral.
Yep, you did. You did a good job. That's why I put it in there.
There.
Right there. Yep, right there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
Just give me a second to look this over. I read fast. All right. high
My
school
understanding, for whatever it's
class.
worth, this is the first meeting that we're being live streamed.
Second.
Second?
You did
Gordon.
the other one.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Move to approve the minutes of August 13, 2025 as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. All right, next item is discuss the updated vote center plan.
Okay, the only changes that we made from our last meeting on August 13th was the adding of 5 additional vote center locations. We added 2 more in Carmel, 1 more in Fall Creek, 1 more in Cicero, and 1 more in Westfield. Based on that, Greg reminded me that we needed to update the number of poll workers and the cost, and so those numbers are updated as well in the plan. So that would be the only things we changed from from what was presented in August.
And the registered voter numbers active in that.
Okay. I'd be happy to answer any questions or go from there. Or I could go on and talk about the vote center report. That's what we got from however
Do you have
do
any
it.
questions, Greg, or you wanted to proceed with the vote center public input report?
I will say I strongly approve of the addition of 5 additional locations. And I thank you and Beth for the work you obviously put in on that.
Absolutely.
And I think that was in response to some concerns that were raised at the prior meeting about, maybe not enough locations and possibilities of long lines and so forth. I remain concerned, as I was at the last meeting, about the language on page 23 that would allow unilateral, in the sense of the partisan makeup, changes to the workers' voting machines and poll pads at the discretion solely of the clerk and the election administrator. In my mind, the General Assembly wisely required this to be a unanimous bipartisan process. And it's my understanding they're considering making this mandatory possibly next year anyway. The Secretary of State is currently having hearings around the state on that very subject. But I think, not so much for right now, because I don't think it's a real concern with the current makeup of the people involved.
We establish precedent.
But, well, I'm not saying that. I am saying to my Republican friends on my right over here, how comfortable would you be if our roles were reversed? How comfortable would you be if somebody who you saw as a malicious partisan actor became county clerk and had control of that system? These are some of the concerns I've been hearing. These are concerns I raised before. And so I want to hear what the folks out here have to say too. But I may offer a proposed amendment to that to, at the very least, restrict some of that without board approval. I think right now, the way it's worded will give the clerk and election administrator power to basically undo the vote center plan. You could change numbers of workers, you could change numbers of machines, you could change numbers of poll pads, might even be able to change locations at the last minute, although it doesn't specifically state that. I think that is contrary to the intent of the statute. I think that is contrary to the requirement that the vote center plan be bipartisan. So while I like 99% of this a lot, that deeply concerns me. So again, I want to hear what the public input is, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, why don't you talk about the vote centers, then we'll take some comments from the public.
Okay, I just want to add a couple things on to what he just said. This right now is what we do in practice. I mean, this isn't new language. I mean, we do not come to you every time we have a change in a poll worker and every time we need to do, add a voting machine or those things. The polling places go to the commissioners for their approval. We do that.
But there is a statutory provision where the election board can change that if there's an emergency.
Right, yes, and that would be what we would do.
Okay.
We would not do that. I guess I just see, the problem I see is, are you going to want to be here every other day at a meeting when we're changing poll workers or have to adjust voting machine, you know, like we had to take that number out, now we got to put this one in because there was an issue, you know. So that would be what would happen if we changed this to the election board had to vote for all of those.
Couldn't that be done by email or
I don't think so.
digitally?
No, I don't think you could.
No, you'd have to have a public meeting, so I'd have to give
You could
48
give-
hours notice.
You could give notice to the board, and then if there was an objection, we could call a meeting. Would be one way.
I'm not sure if that meets the open door law at all, but
No.
that's a suggestion. I mean,
Yeah, I would
Ray's
say that's what-
office is 2 blocks from here, but I live on the east side of Fishers, and
Yeah.
I don't work every day, but my wife and I have medical appointments, unfortunately. But if I had to, I could be here, you know, at least the week before Election Day. And certainly, we're here all day on Election Day. And most of the problems, I think, that pop up are relatively common and easy to address.
Oh, yeah, it wouldn't be, you know, they're not difficult issues. You're just a matter of replacing a poll worker or of which we work with the parties on doing that.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to put a hurdle in getting things done efficiently.
And I don't
That's what you want
want
to
you
do?
ladies to take any of this personally,
I'm not-
because it's not.
I'm not. I'm
I am
thinking about,
I am thinking for the future,
Yes.
perhaps even when none of us are around.
it's coming.
And,
For me.
you know,
It's
you
coming.
know,
Well, you're right, it's got to be fair across the board. That's our whole goal. is
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, to be transparent, to be accurate, all those things.
But I just want you to
Or
know,
whoever.
this is not diverting from anything we do right now. So I don't want you to think we put this in here that we would have total control or whatever. This is practice what
Yeah,
we've
because we
done.
do that every election, you know, as far as how many voters or how many poll workers and how many machines and poll pads go to each
Yeah,
voting
but-
location.
but his point is we-
Politics isn't involved in that at all, you know.
We've got good people that agree and get along, but what if there's a change? I mean,
I get
there
it.
are other places that don't get along as well as we do. You know, we
Yeah.
can disagree, but we
And
all
I,
have the same goal of being
Well-
fair and transparent and,
and not that we use Allen County a lot because our size is about the same,
And
so.
they're considering a vote center plan too.
Yes, they passed it.
Did they?
But,
Okay.
so I called her today to see how they handle it, and they do not have that language in their plan. The only thing they do is the vote centers, they get those approved by the election board, and I have no problem with that. I mean, it's that everyday stuff that worries me a little bit. but-
yeah.
Well, we all know that people, sometimes you put in a poll workers, sometimes they back out at the last minute for good reason, bad reason, no reason. You know, both parties have that problem, but more concerned about the idea of what happens when we're all gone and we all get along, well, 99% of the time. But what happens when there's somebody not so amenable to
Right.
working across the aisle, so to speak? You know, and they want to say, screw you guys, we're only going to put one vote center in Fishers and one in Carmel, put the rest of them the rest around the county. Or, Steve, we need the poll workers in Cicero more than we need them in Carmel.
Yeah.
And take the machines away, take the vote, you know, make it literally impossible for election day voting in the
They would be
department,
cutting
for
their
saying so
nose off
increasingly
to spite
bluer
their face.
areas of this county.
People do that.
And please don't take that as a suggestion.
Okay, well, let's see what everybody else says.
But yeah,
Okay.
that is hopefully something that will never come to pass. You know, because a lot of this is built on trust, and we've talked about that before. But what happens when there are people involved that you can't?
We better have, I would like a system that's fair, no matter who's in charge. Do you have comments, additional comments, Madam Clerk, on the Vote Center's public input report?
Oh, the only thing I would say is that we had a survey done. I'll get you those results here. I took all my emails and put it in this plan that I got. And let me get to the survey. There we go. So we had 225 people respond to the survey. 133, or 59%, said yes. 66 said no, which would be 29%. And then we had some maybes and unsures that were about 12%. And the supportive people, just some words that come up: convenience, reduce confusion, flexibility, and consistency. That was kind of the gist of the people supporting it. Those opposing it was loss of local access, longer wait lines, community bond, and election integrity. So those were the ones, and let's see if there's maybes. The neutrals or maybes would support it, knowing that early voting and mail-in options would stay the same, which they will. Request that centers be evenly distributed across the county, which we've done a chart to show you what we've done as far as by township, where we're same or close to we were by precinct, and called for strong staffing and technology to prevent long lines. So that was the result of that. And the others, it was probably 2/3 yes and 1/3 no on the emails. So that was, you know, I was kind of disappointed the number of emails we got. It wasn't. That's great. We have received a resolution from the county council and the county commissioners. And then I put in this report news clips from the various papers. And then once we decide whatever we're going to do, I can put these online if somebody wants to look at them.
Yeah, that ought to be. Any questions or concerns on the clerk's report among the board? Is there anyone from the crowd that wants to address the board on the issue of vote centers? Sir, let's start with you. You were here first. If you would, when you reach the podium, state your name and tell us what you think.
My name is Michael Colby. My address is 7105 Cold Lake Drive, that's in Fishers. I rise in support of the vote centers. I have been involved with elections for the last 25 or 30 years. I've had to staff a poll. I've been an inspector. I've been a judge. I've been a clerk. I've done it all. I also run the early voting center at Fishers. Done that for quite a time. One of the things that I think has been a concern is, what about the line? Well, I try to work the line as an inspector. I go out and I see if somebody needs to sit down, they have a disability, I bring them inside, have them take a seat, remember who they are in front of or behind, and then when that person comes in, that's their turn. Typically, when I bring them in, I have them have a seat, and most of the voters just say, oh, go ahead. I typically have a good balance of Democrat and Republican workers. I have strong workers. I have a team that typically is the same team all the time. They like to work there. They get along well together, and I know who my leaders are. I know when it comes time to do a reading, I have both a Republican and Democrat participate. One of the things that I think is good about this is, and you talked about it a little bit, I couldn't quite follow your discussion about what you needed to have done if you want to change a machine. One of the things I think is an advantage of the voting center is there have been times when machines fail for one reason or another. They jam up or something, there's a problem. If you're running early voting center, I can just call the voting office, they can pick up a machine and bring it in. It doesn't have to be loaded with a particular ballot because it has all the ballots. I think that's an advantage. The other advantage I see is savings. Now, you had some discussion about changing the dollar amounts, and I don't know what those are, but I assume doing an early voting center would be less costly than doing the overall election. I think it'd be easier if you had the voting centers at a particular location. You could identify people more readily that would be willing to work in those locations as opposed to doing it by precinct. And one of the things we talked about in the last meeting was, and I've had this happen many times, voter comes in 5 minutes before the polls close and they're at a wrong location. They don't have time to get to the polling location. So if they're doing early voting center, they can come in and vote anywhere in the county. And that could be closest to their work or closest to their home. So that's my support for the early voting centers.
Anyone else want to speak to the board? Yes, sir, Mr. Lowry?
Hello, my name is Josh Lowry. I'm a resident of Westfield. I'm also the chair of the Hamilton County Democrats. I sent out an email to the Democrats on our email list and got quite a bit of feedback. So overwhelmingly, I think there was definitely a lean towards the vote centers with one slight concern. But first, I do want to say, I also read the emails that you guys published that had been sent in as voter feedback, and frankly, I was kind of troubled reading so many people saying that they had concerns about election integrity, because I have not seen that to be an issue in Indiana. I think it's been a falsehood that's been perpetrated and has created a situation where people don't trust elections when there's no reason not to trust elections. I don't think that the average, I don't want to say the average voter, I think a lot of voters aren't aware that there have to be 2 judges, that there have to be 2 poll workers. If there were some sort of, something fishy going on, it would require both parties to work together. And I think we've proven over these past several years, the parties cannot work together. So I don't know why all of a sudden they'd be able to do so then. So I was troubled by that, but as far as the vote centers itself, what Mr. Purvis was saying about the concern on the adjustments, I think where my concern would be is not the idea that you guys would need to move stuff in and out. I don't think that is, at least it's not a concern of mine, right? To me, the concern is the numbers of poll workers and machines at each location. Right now, I understand that they have to be moved around, but you have 111 different precincts? So the polling locations, there's at least 111 voting machines out there to vote at, right? Under a vote center situation, the way it's worded, a clerk or an administrator could remove, go down to like 2 voting machines at one location and double them in another area. And while I understand, I wouldn't expect that to happen with anyone here, everything has become so partisanized that what's to say that the elections in the future, that's literally what a clerk could be running on. You know what I mean? You have a Democrat that runs and says, if I win, there'll be no machine, there'll be 1 machine in Sheridan and 20 in Fishers. And a Republican runs and says, if I win, there'll only be machines in Sheridan and none in Fishers. And I think Hoosiers are tired of having to not just vote for who the best candidate is, but worried about whether their vote means they'll have a vote in the future. And if there were some sort of amendment that set maybe a minimum on the page 23, I think that would resolve a lot of the issues. If it said, changes can be made as needed, but to go below the set number of 10 voting machines, 4 poll books, 4 judges, 4 poll workers, then it requires board approval. And I think that would make everyone feel safer in the fact that both parties will have had to sign off if we're going to move the numbers around. But I don't think anybody, at least I'm not concerned about a machine malfunctions and you have to switch it out. So that's my 2 cents, but I also think that an easy amendment like that could probably solve that problem on page 23.
Ask you.
Sure.
Josh?
Yeah.
So like, if we get our vote centers lined up, and we go to the election board, and we present those, okay? And which, is part of our plan, I mean, that's what we would do. I think the one thing, if we did it at the beginning of the year, or as soon as we could, because we've got to where generally by now or so, we know pretty much what next year is going to look like. So if we presented it at the beginning of the year, is that sufficient? Or, okay, so we've seen that, so we've done voting a month or a couple weeks, and we see how low the turnout is going to be. I mean, because you can tell by
Sure, yeah.
early voting and stuff like that. And so if we decided to take maybe 2 away, instead of the 10, send 8, is that the scenario where you'd want us to come back to the election board?
I think that would be, yes.
Okay.
Or I think even then, if it's like universal, that wouldn't be as big a concern. I think the concern is if you're taking away from only some locations and not others.
Yeah.
Because we can all look at a map and see which voting centers are going to be more Democratic and which ones are going to be more Republican. And again, why I trust you guys, I trust this board, right? In the future, I don't want a situation where the Monday before Election Day, a clerk can say, I'm going down to 2 at this center and we're going up to 20 in the other one. And then there's long lines and people end up leaving and we end up with a much worse situation than we would have had.
Okay, so let's talk about early voting. Okay, so, we have 8 days, early voting sites. And we have done this before, one of them, we send out the same amount of machines, but then all of a sudden, Cool Creek Park is just crazy, and so we go and add another machine. My concern with that is, we need to do it right now. And having to schedule, do a 48-hour public notice, and then have an election board meeting, it's almost over.
Do you-
So would that scenario
Well,
be an
does,
exception?
does the county have extra machines?
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't think adding is a problem at all. I think that would never be a
So
problem.
reducing.
I think specifically the
So we
issue would
could
be
say
reducing.
Reducing.
Like if we say, like, the vote plan as it is, how it says 10 voting machines, 4 voting
Poll pads.
poll pads, thank you. The 4 clerks, the 4 judges. I think if it was said, like, that's the set amount, you guys can increase them as needed, of course, but to remove or reduce, that would require approval. Because I don't, not on our side at least, nobody's going to be complaining that more people are given the opportunity to vote, right? So if you guys want to increase them, go at it.
Because that is a scenario that happens.
Yeah.
And we would be excited about it because we would be able to do it easier because they're already programmed and just run them right out. So I would hate to have to delay 2 days to get,
No, I think
Approval.
I think an amendment that could be made is simply to say, here's the set
Reduce.
number, to reduce them would require board approval.
okay.
I don't think changing machines out for one when it starts to malfunction or adding, I don't think that's ever an issue. I mean, at some point, we have to trust the system, right? And I would like to think
Yeah,
we could.
because my concern's more procedural, not partisan or, it's more to be efficient and get those voters voted, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
So you would still put a minimum in there? A
Yeah.
minimum of-
Any other comments from the floor? Yes?
Before we get to that, Beth, how many, with the 50
Excuse
of
me,
vote
excuse me just a
centers,
minute.
how many machines in reserve will we have for election day?
So you would have 35 extras. We use 88 for early voting right now.
Oh, I had 90 on the list,
Because
so,
we do 2 less at Westfield City
Okay.
Hall. Because that's all, eight's all that will fit at Westfield City Hall.
okay, so 35.
So traditionally, we've done 10 at every location except Westfield City Hall, and they do 88.
So those 33 could be set and ready to go.
Okay,
That makes sense?
that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Sir, please rise and make a comment.
Chairman Aldor, members of the board. My name is Parvin Gillum. I live in Sheridan, and I'd actually sent a letter or an email regarding, I don't want to say that my thoughts on this are knee-jerk. I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I think my mind changes a little bit based on as I gain more information about the idea of the voting centers. My concern all along with them had to do with, I guess, access, the ability of voters to get to a voting center and what that looks like to them when they get there, whether or not it's something that they're coming home from work, going to work, how far out of the way they need to go to get to one of these voting centers, and would it deter people from voting? And from that, I see the rationale behind the voting centers. I really do, because I see that as there is a cost-saving measure. I worry whether or not it will change a voter's sense of whether or not it is, I hate to say it, for many voters, is it easy enough to vote? Voting is a privilege, and I think it's a wonderful privilege that exists in our United States and doesn't exist in many parts of the world. So it really is a privilege that all people should partake in. However, as I said, voting should be something that's convenient in some ways, and whether or not the voting centers reduce that convenience or whether it enhances them, I can't say. I guess my question is, in regards to the voting centers, I appreciate this gentleman's comment about that if there are senior people or folks that have mobility issues, and how do they handle situations where suddenly we do have lines where before we didn't. That would be especially true in Sheridan, where many times these voting locations didn't have lines. They were easy to access, and that was greatly appreciated. Now, did I find it a bit ridiculous that one voting location was maybe about a quarter mile away from another one? Yeah, I thought that was kind of a waste, but I guess the whole idea for me is looking at that as saying that, will the voting centers be something that is static, or will it be something that can change based on population movement and everything else? And how many voting centers, can they be increased, decreased based on that type of thing? And I guess it is the will of the election board of how you change that and how you alter it based on population movements, population centers, and those types of things. Sheridan is growing, so I guess I'm always concerned for Sheridan since that's where I live and work. So with that, the only other thing I'm a little worried about is that when our federal administration sort of randomly makes a suggestion that, oh, well, maybe early voting shouldn't be allowed, how does this look at that? How do we then look at that if that ever gained any traction? So again, those are just my thoughts. As I want to say that, was I initially opposed? Yeah. Am I still opposed? Not necessarily. But I just think it has everything to do with access and the voters in this county being able to get to these voting stations, these voting centers conveniently and be able to vote in a timely manner. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Anyone else want to rise? Yes, ma'am.
Can I just add something while she's coming up?
Yeah.
Reverend, and the one thing too, to understand, the vote center plan can be amended at any time. So, and what we probably will do from election to election, because, a presidential election, you're gonna need more than you're gonna need for a municipal election. And so, that, and that does go through the election board. So, it will be a part of the process that's ongoing.
And it's my understanding the amendments have to be unanimous too, just like the initial adoption of the vote center plan.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am, please state your name for the
Okay,
record.
my name is Suzanne Schaefer. I live at 16197 East 191st Street, Noblesville. I went to the previous meeting and read all the paperwork and listened carefully, and then I met a couple of people that worked at elections, and one lady that lived in Evansville and moved up here, so she experienced voting centers down there, and she said it was much easier to vote down there than it was here. And so that helped, and I ran into 3 or 4 people that worked at the elections that said too many people got turned away because they were at the wrong place. So having read everything and listened to both of your meetings, I am in favor of the vote centers, and I trust people. I think that, and I lived here at one point, and then I left here and traveled and lived in another state. And I think, and I'm back. I've been back for a little over 6 years. And I had kids that lived here the whole time, and I always felt comfortable here that things were done right. So I'm in favor of the vote centers, and I think you will make adjustments as needed. And it helped when somebody said to me that she'd experienced them in Evansville and that she liked them. So thank you for listening to me.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Dick. I'm a resident of Noblesville. I'm also the president of the Hamilton County League of Women Voters. First of all, I would like to say that as the league has reviewed the plan, we want to compliment both the election administrator and the county clerk on a very well thought out plan. As a matter of fact, our colleagues in Allen County, which is also has also recently considered moving to vote centers. When they saw the Allen County plan, they were very dissatisfied because there were so few vote centers in the plan. I shared through our social media what we had seen here, and our league up in Allen County took that to their county administrators. And they were able to, the league was able to change their position based on the changes that the Allen County clerk made based on seeing the example of Hamilton County. So I think that speaks very highly of the plan that we have created here in Hamilton County. One thing that I did want to comment on regarding the Secretary of State is one thing that he has said in his public meetings is that he is not planning on making any recommendations, only providing feedback from the public, and we do appreciate the fact that that's been an opportunity for people to speak on this from a statewide perspective. The league hosted Commissioner Christine Altman and County Councilor Sue Mackey at our August meeting. It wasn't intended to be anything to do with vote centers, but because we had a lot of members who are poll workers, and several of us had attended your previous meeting, and the fact that the county commissioners had just tabled their discussion, we had a very, very positive conversation, discussion with both Commissioner Altman and Councilor Mackey. And one of the things, I think we were able to share some of our thoughts from both the league's perspective as well as the perspective of people who work at the elections. But she also assured us that her feeling about it had to do a lot with making sure that we had thoroughly vetted this, that yes, they realize that this isn't something new, that there are other counties throughout Indiana who have done this, but that before we were going to do this in in Hamilton County, that she wanted to make sure that as an elected official, that she had all the information available. And I understand that after our league meeting, she and the other commissioners did have a meeting with the election officers, and they were able to get all of their questions answered. And I'm very pleased that they approved it as well, approved their resolution as well as the county council did. And I think she left us with a feeling of knowing that our elected representatives on the council and the commission are also very, very much aware of the importance of this. And they listened very carefully to us. We appreciated that. I also want to mention that as we've talked about accessibility, and I understand that accessibility is very important, particularly for our older voters, but I also know that absentee ballot by mail is available to anyone over the age of 65. I'm concerned about our young voters. I'm concerned about the students at Ivy Tech that we went to see on Tuesday on National Voter Registration Day, and making sure that students and college students who may be working a job as well as going to school, that they have easy access to being able to cast their ballot, and that young parents and young people who work in the city or maybe work in other communities around central Indiana, that all of those people don't have to worry about being able to get back home to their home precinct by 6 o'clock on election day. And so I would ask that you consider seriously passing this. Thank you.
Any other comments? Now we'll show the public comment period closed. Any other comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm going to go back to my prior comments, and in line with Chairman Lowry's comments, I'm thinking maybe we're all looking at the language of the third paragraph on page 23 a little bit the wrong way, all of this. Beth mentioned the routine replacement of poll workers. I don't think this covers that at all. And that is not a concern. The concern is the fact that some person not committed to this being a bipartisan process in the future would reduce or eliminate that. And Chairman Lowry made what I think is an excellent suggestion. I think we are probably focusing on the majority, the first line of paragraph 3 that says these numbers may change at any time all the way up to election day, and not the rest of that sentence. In the case of more needed workers, voting machines or poll pads. And I think that language has led us all astray. So I, along with the suggestion by Chairman Lowry, would like to offer an amendment to that language, which I think will meet everybody's concerns and not disturb anything about the way things are actually being done. I would like to add language at the end of that paragraph after the words election administrator. And I'll speak slowly, and I've kind of scratched it out here myself. In no case shall the number of poll workers per vote center location be reduced below 1 inspector, 4 bipartisan judges, and 4 bipartisan clerks, comma, nor the number of voting machines per vote center location be less than 10, comma, nor the number of poll pads per vote center location be less than 4, semicolon, without unanimous approval of the Hamilton County Election Board. End of amendment. So I move adoption of that amendment, which I hope we will receive as a friendly amendment that just clarifies this. That won't, I think, change anything that you were talking about. But it would give the final power to change that to the full board. And we're all here on election day. For the most part, anything major that's going to come up on election day, we're here anyway. We've already given public notice of that.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about
And
that.
I don't think, absent a real emergency, which is a loophole allowing us to give shorter notice under the open door law, if there were a natural disaster that destroyed a polling place, for example, there is provision to have an emergency meeting and have a new location. I think we're thinking of a lot of what ifs that are not part of the election day vote center plan. Nor does this, according to some of the other concerns, both in writing and here today and at the last meeting, this doesn't affect early voting at all. It doesn't have anything to do with mail-in voting. This is simply how people vote on election day. So, Chairman Lowry proposed something like this, and I was writing frantically while he was talking. And I would hope you would find that amendment successful, and I move its adoption.
And you said reducing, right? So if we added a machine, we wouldn't have to go.
No.
No.
This is, it simply locks in the plan numbers that are already expressed in the vote center plan.
Okay.
So if you had a location with 10 machines and nobody was going there and another nearby location was slammed, you could come to us as a group on election day and say, gee, can we move a couple of machines and, a couple of, a judge and a clerk to location B. And I think that's easy to do.
But if it's the week before and we've seen numbers and we think we need to add somebody, we need to have an election board meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we can set one now.
Do what?
You're not thinking about adding, you're only thinking about it, we can't reduce
We
what.
can't reduce it below the 10.
Okay, because that's what I just asked and you said no. So
I
I'm going to say it again.
misunderstood you then.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with adding machines.
No. It would
Or
allow,
adding
it would
a poll
allow you
worker.
and Beth to add machines and workers.
Okay, all right. I don't have any problem with that. What I question too is, okay, in the case of more than, okay. And I guess this is just a technicality. If
It
we
may be a
don't-
reinforcement. Think
If
of it
we
that
don't
way.
have enough, okay, so we say that we're gonna have 4 judges and 4 clerks, and we don't have that many. We're just not gonna have that many, right? We're not gonna have to go back and amend it and say,
Oh, we gotta amend it. Otherwise,
if
we'd
they
have
just
a,
don't show up? I mean,
Yeah.
if we
we'd have a
don't,
void
What are you
election.
talking about, a situation where people don't show up?
if they don't, if we can't get people. Okay, so the week before, we know that we have 10 precincts, that we only are gonna have 3 judges. So we're short one. So do we have to go back to the board and say, we're not gonna be able to come up with that 4th person?
We've
'Cause that
had-
happens.
We're going to have fewer poll workers anyway, so we're going to have a pool of people.
I'm just asking, is that this kind of scenario you're talking about?
I think it is. I think that's what you're saying.
I don't think that's his scenario.
Well, Can you just reread the amendment you had proposed, Greg?
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, if you could just read again.
Did you take it that way?
In no case shall the number of poll workers per vote center location be reduced below 1 inspector, 4 bipartisan judges, and 4 bipartisan clerks, comma, nor the number of voting machines per vote center location be less than 10, comma, nor the number of poll pads per vote center location be less than 4, semicolon, without unanimous approval of the Hamilton County Election Board.
You see what I'm saying?
And so I think maybe what you could do is say, at the beginning of that, say, the clerk or the administrator shall not reduce. And then the rest of it, because then if somebody doesn't show up, that's not you guys reducing it.
Right.
Because I understand
Or
your
even the
point.
week before, we're still trying, do we need to run to the
Right,
election board and
and-
say, we're not gonna probably?
No,
get that?"
because you're not reducing it,
Okay,
right? Like, I don't, if somebody doesn't show up, they don't show up.
okay.
Like, that's not
Or if
what
they
we
don't
want, of
get, if
course.
it doesn't get filled.
Right, but I'm talking about the specific situation where you don't want that person there, right? And I think that's different than somebody just not showing up.
Yeah,
And so I think that would cover that.
okay. What do you think?
So you would put the language in my amendment, in no case shall the clerk or election administrator reduce the number of poll workers
Right.
per vote center.
Yep,
location.
and everything else you said I think is fine,
Killed.
because then that gets to a situation where if somebody doesn't show up, that's not them reducing it.
Your motion has not been seconded. Do you wish to restate your motion as,
I'll restate the motion after the suggestion by
All right.
Chairman Lowry. In no case shall the clerk or election administrator reduce the number of poll workers per vote center location below 1 inspector, 4 bipartisan judges, and 4 bipartisan clerks, comma, nor the number of voting machines per vote center location be less than 10, comma, nor the number of poll workers per vote center location be less than 4, semicolon, without unanimous approval of the Hamilton County Election Board. So if somebody just doesn't show up, you're not doing that. You're not removing somebody. You know? And those are appointees of the 2 county chairs or their designees.
So can I ask you about a scenario like, so say during early voting, Fishers has a lot on the ballot and they're just turning out like crazy, and Westfield maybe not so much, and they're not. So my idea of vote centers was that, okay, well, then I would have the option of going, okay, at 3 of these really busy locations that I think are in busy thoroughfares, they might need 12, and a few of the less busy ones that I think might be less busy in Westfield, and I know that's all relative, and that would come from our minds. might need 8 so that those can have 12. That's just what I thought vote centers were about.
I'm not sure early voting is a complete indicator of what's going to happen on election day. Because I think a lot of people do it instead of election day.
Yeah.
But even absentee voting, even mail voting, I think is a measuring, I mean, it kind of gives us an idea of what the interest is out there, but.
The problem, or the opportunity, counsel, you're a counselor, is due process typically requires an ascertainable standard, not just judgment call. And it also calls for a check and balance, and that isn't always the most efficient thing to do. But I think that's what is required for a fair election, that we have some ascertainable, as much as we can, ascertainable standards, and then check and balance. If we want to change it, then Greg has to have input, I have to have input, you have to have input. That isn't efficient, but I think that's what the law requires. Correct me if I'm wrong on
The
that.
best point
Yeah,
is
that's
early
correct,
voting
yes.
indicates a certain interest in one location and not another. We can preset an election board meeting the Friday or even the day before election day to deal with last minute issues like that. I mean, we could give notice now for such a meeting. And, you know,
And not even just early voting, and I think that's pretty fair, actually, but, like, say Mercy Road Church, I mean, wouldn't you think there would be way more people stopping to vote at Mercy Road Church than there would be at, I don't know, Westfield City Hall? Maybe, that Westfield City Hall is probably not a good example, because they're an early voting location, so maybe.
So-
But just some more obscure, Fuel Church, you know, and you might want to put 12 at, it's going to be I know the first couple elections are going to be a
It's
little
an
bit of a
experiment.
guessing game.
Yeah, and we really did put extra in, we have overkill if we have 11%
Yeah.
turnout.
For what it's worth, though, about your concern, I think with the proposed amendment, you guys can still do that. You just have to get them to sign on to it. So like Mr. Purvis said, you know, if the Friday before Election Day, you guys have a standing meeting every election year, and that's when you can address those things.
Well, they're delivered within 10 days before election. They start delivering machines 10
Don't
days.
do that. Well, I mean, whenever. I think the point is, like, it's still doable.
Yeah.
Like, and again, with you guys, that's not going to be a problem, right? But in the future, it does prevent someone from abusing it. And Mr. Adler is right. What's fair isn't always the most efficient, but that's how America works. We get due process, the notice, and reasonable chance to respond, whether or not it's considered efficient.
So the other thing, between now and we'll have an election board meeting in January, if we go through and we look at this, and what if we, in the future, instead of doing it by blanket, say, here's the precincts, here's the 57 precincts, this one's gonna have 10, this one's gonna have 8, this is gonna have 4, you know, based on what,
Yeah.
you know, I think we did this very general as a first time out there, that I can see we'll have a better idea individually, and maybe in the future, we'll do it by precinct and not by blanket. Is that, I mean, that's nothing for this amendment. I'm just saying that, we would do that in January or.
Or even go through the first election and then go, oh, well, that didn't work. We
Yeah.
really needed way more machines
Yeah.
and, you know.
if
Yeah.
we had problems in the 2026 election based on the way this is, I don't think that's going to happen based on past experience, even if voter turnout is up a bit. But that will inform us as what we need for the presidential election of 2028, which we all know is way beyond any other election that's conducted in this county. The turnout numbers are just dramatically different.
Yeah, that's the comparison I made, yeah.
Yeah, and we may have to,
71% to 12%.
and we may have to fine tune this plan, more centers, more machines or whatever, based on expected turnout for a presidential election. And we know what precincts turn out and what don't, based on historical data.
Yep.
Well, is there a second on the motion?
You feel strongly, why don't you do it?
I feel strongly.
Oh. Second.
Motion been made and second to amend the plan as stated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Any other comments on the plan itself?
I'd make a motion that we adopt the vote center plan
As amended.
as amended.
Second.
Motion made to adopt the plan as amended. There was a second to that motion. Is there any discussion on the plan? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion fails.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
The only thing I did have left was to remind you that December 15th through 17th is your
Right.
training. The state has told us they will no longer be printing our books or those manuals or any of that.
All be electronic.
It'll all be electronic, so get your magnifying glasses out.
I have a big Android tablet, so.
Okay.
Any other old business?
Nope.
Not the chair will entertain a motion.
One thing,
Yeah.
there has been promised a couple of times from Microvote to have a written
Oh, I'm
report
sorry.
concerning that
We
glitch that we had in the
I
last
have it,
election.
I'm sorry. And even this morning, I said, was there anything else I needed for this morning? I just spent a lot of time on this, so, okay. I will get it to you. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yep, I'm sorry, that's my fault.
Exists and will be mailed out.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll
All
email
right.
it to you.
Thank you, everybody.
A motion to adjourn?
You hear a motion to
Second.
adjourn? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Nope. I did. Or he did. I second.
why do we go through all of that if we're just gonna?
We discussed it.
What is your objection?
Just not convinced that we're there.
Everybody else is.
I know.
You guys. And it may be moved next year, and the General Assembly may well.
Yeah, Allen County's doing it.
And they're the county that's closest to us. They base theirs, and they change it based on the work they did.
Yeah, I think we're a year ahead of time.
Wait, can I ask, are you against both centers in
No,
general?
no.
Or is it this specific plan?
I just don't think we're quite there yet, you know. It's an experiment, and I hate to change the election of 400,000 people kind of as an experiment.
That's why you would do it in a midterm and not just pop it on a presidential
Yeah,
election.
if we're going to come out from the legislature, as we look at these other counties, figure out, you know,
Some of these counties did it a long time ago.
Yeah.
The county adopted theirs in 2014.
yeah, they're a lot smaller though.
Yeah, but not so much anymore.
Are you thinking you would want it done like in 2029, like right after a presidential?
Yeah, I think that's probably best.
And it doesn't really work for municipal. And this plan would have been accepted a municipal election anyway, or special. Municipal elections are funny because they're not really, not even all municipalities have elections at the same time.
We may not have municipals in several years ago, going forward.
Well, that's been proposed before everyone.
Yeah, we need to.
And we don't have any control over that.
Oh, I know you guys do, I didn't know.
Yeah, I gotta yell at you a little. Get out there and say parties don't get along. I think in 8 years, we disagreed twice.
No,
No more than twice.
not going down my background to get processed there, so. No, I know, but here's the hard part. When people sit down and act like adults, we can get along. It's once people get on TV that everything goes to hell. Like, I know that this,
And start running off at the mouth.
the concern is, right now, we're running, right? My concern is the future. It's one of those people from TV and not one of the serious people, so.
Very good question. There's some friends out there.
Yeah.
Good on?
All right, thank you, guys.
Us, all smoke, no fire.
I mean, the amendment is burning.
I think Beth wants to.
Thank you for saying that. I think that's perfect.
Well, while you were talking, I was scratching out of
I should have written something. That was
I
exactly.
was going to do that. My wife had medical appointments every day.
Which, by the way, I've been looking to find
Probably
probably.
pending biopsy results. My wife's cancer is in clinical remission. The radiation and chemo did, but it also damaged her back. She has 2 non-displaced rib fractures and a compression fracture of the lumbar spine.
Is that from the injections when they have to do those? Or?
No, it is from the radiation itself plus laying on a stainless steel table. She's 4'10" and 92 pounds. And 65 years old. So she's up, she's got a bone density test next week to see age-related loss of bone density, which happens in women in particular. Is an issue, and then an MRI, and possible referral to a spinal specialist. There's even thought there's a procedure. There's nothing to do, but she's quite a bit of discomfort, so tinkering with pain medication. Off the opioid she's on now. But apparently they can inject cement into the spine to stabilize it. It's a liquid cement. A radiologist is actually looking at the spine and they put a big syringe under local anesthesia into your back at the affected area to stabilize it, and it's supposed to adhere to it and fix it in place so it doesn't degenerate further. Now, it doesn't always work. So we need to, they're gonna do a radiologist referral that does this thing. And then we'll talk to him or her, figure out the next one. But she's been in quite a bit of discomfort.
Yeah.
But she's eating normally, she's putting weight back on. You know, she had about 50% chance of the chemo and radiation eradicating the visible tumor, which it did.
Yeah.
But it left some ulcerations at that site in her esophagus, so those have to heal. And they have to do testing for like every 3 months.
Yeah.
And I went through something similar with my cancer 3 years ago. Now, I don't have to do it every 3 months, it's every 6 months, and colonoscopy every 2 years. I'm not even due for another colonoscopy until next year.
In remission.
Remission is a very good piece.
Oh, yeah, I would say.
So I'm doing this and singing in the Fishers Community Chorus.
All right.
Dude, I'm a charter member. Jocelyn Bear was the person that dragged me into the first meeting.
Oh,
And she wasn't even involved in politics then. She was all nickel plate arts and a bunch of other, and she was a board member of Fisher Music, which is a parent organization. Fisher's Canadian Forest and others. But I kept running into her things, and she could hear my voice. She said, "Greg, did you sing in high school choir?" I said, "Yeah, but that was a long time ago." So forming a community choir is all amateur, no audition, you know, give it a shot. So I did. First year was a little rough, because I hadn't sung in an organized group since college. I've been doing it ever since, and I love it. And so now we're practicing our Christmas song. You wanted to talk to me, I was gonna come over and talk to you.
Okay, I think I got your amendment, but I wanted to make sure I got it word for word. If you want
Okay.
over, I can take a picture of what you wrote down or whatever, and I'll get it in there.
Okay.
Should be.
All right, I'll come over and talk to you.
All
So.
right.
I'll be there.
All right.
I didn't
Good to see
forget. I saw your wig wags.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else, Josh?
Okay, great job. Thank you.
Well, I didn't really, he was so quiet, I didn't expect him to do that. I thought maybe his concerns were alleviated. And I know Mario told him, he ain't gonna tell me.
He told me, if you remember when we had the first meeting, he was over here, he was like, are
He
you
was,
thinking about saying?
yeah, he was concerned, but I wish he'd have said something earlier, we would have saved a hell of a lot of work. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks a lot, Greg, appreciate you. Yes. Yes.
Hey, Greg.
And Joe, he needs to be on it.
I don't feel like you should.
She told me she'd try her. I told you. I just had to have it. Start cleaning up and stuff. I can't get up and just say that.
Look, I tried really hard for you and Amber.
Well, the woman told me that you have your clothes.
Saved a hell of a lot of fuss.
Yeah, one word. Yeah, I'm just, your reaction is great. Okay.
That's, speaking of amendments, that you
Yeah.
really, good job. How long have you been with the state? You have to vote in two countries. And that's great, and all, except we skip an election year, so my technical first primary.
You very long ago.
I don't know what you're talking
But I know there was one.
I'm really upset.
And I'm thinking of some of the bad actors who've gotten together. Yeah, trying to get hard, trying to free their lunch first thing.
I mean, get him off the board.
That was my
I lived here once and up. But my kids,
very happy to see.
so I go back all the time. I knew some of the killings, and I know I was against this tuition system. I know some of the other
Words I asked her. I don't think where they're changed, I was scared. I don't know what that means.
Yes.
I don't mind, I don't say the convention. So I have. So, okay, so there's no sense.
I've never read it.
I mean, the council representatives, the commissioner. I think it breaks my heart that this is, they're just one person.
But he actually means that. You know, they have people say that with very few things. Others, I don't think it's also kind of usually their diagnosis.
Yeah.
I don't think that kind of work, but I just know it's just the way it's thinks it's very good. Pray on it.
Nobody says so.
Everybody's always trying. His law, he represents the office. We get a no big conduit, so
So who appoints you to your, yes, not just.
Well, actually, his predecessor, the two political appointees are appointed by the chairs, county prosecutor's of the respective parties, who serve until their replacement is nominated and signed. There's no one involved. So I was appointed by the Lawn Garden in 2017.
Okay.
I served under Joe, Amy Colbert, Jocelyn Bear, and now Josh Lowry. Nobody seemed fit to replace me. But I have kind of unique skill set, such as 50-plus years working in elections and law and managing industry politics. Started back in '68 when I took Bobby Kennedy speaking in Ryan County Code. That's a whole story by itself. But I started working elections actually in 1979 as a college student.
That's cool.
And I've been a poll worker, I can embrace the commitment, I still am. Deputy election commissioner, then absentee ballot counter.
Last week, he was at podcast.
Legal work on behalf of candidates.
I don't, I lived through Kennedy, I lived through two Kennedys and.
I remember the last presidential election.
I was in nursing school, and I hear all this noise outside, I take it up test.
Yep.
And I come out, and they're box clinics, and they're telling me
But he
Kennedy,
had a petition,
it's like,
signed, verified, and then filed with the state legislature. Well, they needed the ballot access, so they hired me, despite the fact I was going to be voted for. Because I told them up front, this is, I was a Bernie Sanders guy. But work well, they got, I told what they knew to do, they got a bunch of volunteers out, skills that we take signatures, so they were certified. This has to be done in the county. Sometimes people sign that on, voters,
I'm involved.
congressional district, or whatever. So a lot of signatures on petitions like that. Once we get it verified, those assembled by county and congressional district, take boxes and boxes of those actual paper petitions and file about the state election.
And the easy accessibility to it, okay.
Shepherd,
I'm living in Nashville.
my whole office was I'm sorting and organizing all this myself. Really good for my But I represented.
We might actually be getting paid more than like minimum wage in my profession if that were the case. Where are you? I'm here in the therapist. But currently not practicing.
Anyway, I've done a little bit of everything. I've been kind of practicing all of us. If you run well, did I see where he's going?
There's reason for that. It's kind of like a doctor, they tell you not to walk in and tell people what you want. Because they're like, hey, can you add so it's like.
I'll go on, it's interesting, if your opinions, your thoughts on it, I can't nothing to say.
I thought it would be.
No, we did not.
Like, these guys are good, dramatic, right? You say one day.
So we're married, we're like, hello, we've done this.
My brain.
I didn't hear it. He said, no. He made it sound like he was saying it was awkward.
I just don't know.
I think they who voted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then,
All right, well, okay. I'm married.
Great purpose. I've been doing it for 2.5 years now, under my 4th county chair.
he was ready to go.
So nobody's fired me yet.
Good job. I was just so upset.
I serve until somebody fires me or I die or quit.
I
So,
didn't even feel we got fired.
No, I was thinking about it more afterwards. I wonder what that easy actually is. There is some of them.
one of two things is my working hypothesis of there. So I'm already full of which would improve it. Or somebody can
Well, that's what I mean, I think someone, they couldn't have had no position because they're talking about moving it statewide, right? There's nothing in other politics to do with it, which must be specific to Hamilton County.
67 counties in county.
Right.
Already
Specific to
added.
Hamilton County.
And most of those counties are Republican. Now, Marion County, when they first talking about a Republican member on their election board, no. But then they brought it back, and it was unanimous agreement. And now everybody thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread. And they got a lot more people than we do. They have triple our population. We've got a lot of people here. We have 300,000 plus. But they're pushing a million.
They say we're gonna be bigger than Liverpool.
Well, Fishers is already the fourth largest city in the state, and Carmel's fifth.
I'll get back to what, Greg, thank you for everything. Thank you.
Yes, go back to the lawyer.
Yes.
Are you
If you
gonna
will,
vote?
just, yes.
I will follow.
And so am I.
Yeah, shoot me an email, I can rip it out.
And Justin, he's not getting out of this without being added to something. I'd rather he be seated than me.
We should
And all he says I have to wait my seat, so that I can vote. And
I'm going to be the women voters.
Over different.
I've seen you do things.
it would be easier to have that. If you're gonna put me in a rural area, it would be easier.
For the 30 days before the election.
Justin, he's gonna drive me all through.
So what will
try to
happen
come back.
next year, they'll start filling up as we go along. Because right now, I think it sounds.
You vote by now.
When we start saying, hey, primary's coming
Well,
up.
League of Women Voters
All we're
already
asking you to do.
Right, and I got introduced that.
We're asking you to go talk to the no Democrats. And I do think that's one thing.
Bunch of Republicans.
When I say we, I mean like.
Yes.
Part of the question, if you do, right?
Well, I lived in this county.
What's the one thing I think when we talk about what the PCs have to do, I think because we need to actually go to school.
Politics has gotten a war partisan.
And that's not, we're only saying you can park for Democrats. So.
That was the game.
I'm just volunteering, Justin, I just wanna make sure it's clear that
So-
if Raleigh's volunteering me, I'm volunteering Justin.
Raleigh voluntold me, she just tells me.
And if she would like to volunteer.
Judge, Raleigh not volunteering Raleigh.
But I'm saying I don't feel like that wall of the park is there. It's like,
No, at this point, Justin doesn't either anymore, it's just, it's a suit.
There are people in this world that really doesn't just look at.
Well, I have also two people in order to figure this out.
Yeah, I have two more PCs, Steve and Jim. Yeah, Steve and Jim, yeah.
I didn't know she went to do it.
She didn't until I told her she wanted to be. She wants to be.
But see, they take a
all
meeting,
with her husband, but she
and
was,
I'm actually fiscally pretty conservative.
Wayne Township, but
Socially
she's,
very liberal.
she's in between me and y'all.
And I'm
So
totally
she's,
serious.
she's more closer to Fishers, but she's, no, she's further.
I lived here.
Well, I ran for Fisher's Council, and I was actually more conservative fiscally than any of the
Main Street. That is her.
But I lived here before, and I came, I lived in there. But I had kids that lived here, and I was very disappointed when I was shaking. I had a minor penalty when he needed to stand up and stood up and do the budget.
Yeah, I don't admire much of Elsa like this, but he was right about that.
I didn't like things that he did.
I didn't like him to.
I didn't do it. I didn't
I
have
lived in Indiana all my years, 74 years.
it. I'm pretty sure.
You're like that much older.
I know she's in Hamilton Southeast.
I said, Laura, we did mission work in Kentucky, followed by the Catholic Church, and then down the house for 2 weeks, and then the stayed 11 years.
I'm trying to
We
get
started in probably,
Scott and Danielle.
so we got a tariff, and I had a health issue, my husband had a severe health issue, and we were always wanting to travel, so we lived in our RV for 10 years full time. We
Okay,
went all over this country, all over Canada, all come to Alaska, down to Mexico.
that's a whole lifestyle in itself.
Yeah. And then
She
we
not
moved back here,
I
and
know, she's.
between 19 and 1 and a half, 2 months, my husband decided that she was out of care.
We've been dating.
I'm a cancer survivor.
He is too.
My wife just yesterday,
Yeah.
pending a biopsy result, is in clinical remission for her cancer.
I've had brain tumor, I'm 62 at the time,
She does, but it's just, because Amber Danielle, Jen and I all.
You're still here?
Yeah. I said,
Are we
well,
gonna
if you want,
each
I'm
other?
sure, yeah. But Danielle was
Good for you.
pressures.
I gotta,
Oh, yeah.
run, but it was
Yeah.
nice talking to you.
I just can't believe it.
We gotta get out of here too.
Hello, good to see you.
Hi, stranger.
I heard him, I thought, well, he's just taking the census.
I don't even know where all I've met you from down there. I've just seen you so many
I
times.
gotta go talk to Beth, make sure she's got the working lined up.